The sales robots have taken over, and they're decimating deals left and right, destroying them right in their tracks. On the AI for Sales podcast, our mission is to empower everyday sellers to embrace AI superpowers to build new bridges and crush quota. Dr. Joel Abon said it best in the AI for Sales book. In sales, time kills deals. In AI for Sales, AI kills time. Join our hosts as we learn from the C-suite of the world's fastest growing companies about how you can leverage AI today to transform your sales revenue engine while being the best version of you.
The AI for Sales podcast. I'm here with Kyle Stout today. Kyle is the founder of a company called Elevate and Scale. I love that name. My original company is called Scale X. So Elevate and Scale, which is a leading email marketing agency that helps direct-to-consumer brands unlock hidden revenue and put their sales on autopilot, get this, while spending $0 in extra ad spend. So I love it when a company puts their money where their mouth is and can help you prove the business value of what it is they do, deliver value, and get you revenue that you wouldn't have otherwise had. So I have to believe to be able to make those kinds of amazing offers, AI really must be a part of this process because with 100% human intervention, I think it'd be harder to make those kinds of promises. So anyway, I'm so excited to have Kyle on the show today. Kyle, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
This is going to be fun. I've always been on the sales side personally with the interaction with marketing. So we're an expert MQL to SQL converting machine. So I always respect the work that is done by my marketing counterparts. To help our audience connect with Kyle Stout, tell us kind of which part of the country world were you raised in? What was your thing when you were younger? I like to help our audience connect with you that way.
Okay, yeah. So I was raised in Tulsa, Oklahoma. My thing, it was really a lot of things, actually. It's hard to pick one. I was really into playing sports. I was always outdoors, running around. This is back whenever kids would actually play outside and you would run around and play sports with all the neighborhood kids, things like that. And I took an interest early on in just human behavior and psychology. And that's kind of what led me to be interested in marketing as I got older. I was always paying attention to ads and the way businesses would, do their messaging from a young age without really knowing that it was a thing. It's just something that kind of caught my eye. And so it was always in the back of my mind. And that's what led me to get into marketing as I became an adult.
Love it. The psychology, human behavior aspect of it. That's really cool. So thinking about what you've seen over the last, 6 months, everything changed in the business world as it relates to AI. You guys launched in 2019. Take us through, when did you start seeing AI appear in your world? I assume was probably a little before it appeared to the rest of the world in 2023 or maybe 2022.
Yeah, so I started out as a freelance copywriter back in 2013, and there have been some AI tools for especially for copywriting that have been available for years, but they honestly weren't very good. So I had tried them. The early iterations were really bad. The ones that were around pre-ChatGPT were still, they just weren't anything I would personally use because, it's like whenever you're a copywriter, if you were just trying to create some bland content or just content to fill space, it could do it. But to really have good sales copy, it just wasn't hitting the mark. So, a lot of the success of our emails and anything I've been doing with clients prior to starting this business and then with this business has relied a lot on the market research and really just understanding the ideal buyer of a customer. So I would put a lot of time into the initial phase of coming up with the messaging strategy for anything that, whether it's emails or any kind of copy I was doing. And that's one area where I've saved so much time. It saved me hours and hours during the onboarding process for new clients. And it's also just made the whole content creation process for creating emails so much better. So that has been the biggest thing over the last 6 months for us.
I love it. Yeah. I heard a stat maybe 6-8 months ago someone running a big email company said 585 million emails went out on their platform. They saw an average of 3.8% reply rate and 93% were negative. And I think generally speaking, that's how a lot of businesses and salespeople perform, because they're not figuring out the right ICP in the first place. They're not coming in with the unique message for that individual. They're blanketing the market, right? Hey, don't you like peanut butter? No, I hate peanut butter. You know what? You should have known that before you reached out to me. So give us like an example of maybe a recent customer, if you would, or, you know, how maybe a prompt that you might consider asking ChatGPT, you know, without giving away all your trade secrets. Maybe there's something you could share with the audience today that would be compelling.
Yeah. So the thing I have found is that the better your prompt is, the better the output you're going to get from AI. So if you just say, for example, write an email about protein powder, it's going to be thinking of, it's going to consider, because it has so much information to consider, it's going to be considering this huge market of people with all different kinds of goals and different reasons for buying and different, you know, sales objections and all of that. Whereas if you add more detail and you say that, you know, we are an online supplement company and we primarily target middle-aged women who have kids, and we want to write an email all about, you know, how to lose fat, whenever, you know, maybe fitting exercises into your schedule and you have a busy schedule, something like that. And then I would also give in the details of the protein powder that we're going to be trying to promote, right, or be promoting. And so by giving all those extra details, now it's going to write all of the copy specifically for those moms, but it's going to be giving tips about, you know, workout tips or whatever related to the whole schedule piece. But then it's also going to focus the benefits of the protein about, you know, why it's so convenient. You can take it with you anywhere. It's easy to just toss in a cup and go. And now everything it's crafted way better. So that's the kind of detail you want to have in your prompts. You want to give it information about some background information on your business. You want to give it some background information on the people that you're targeting. You want to give it some details about the product or service, whatever it is that you're trying to promote. And then you could also add in details, like you can tell it a specific angle to take for the email to start the conversation, or you can give it details like what kind of tone to use. All of those kind of details, it adds a little bit more work up front, but the output you get is so much better that it reduces the amount of editing that you have to do and the amount of iterations of back and forth to get to a final piece of copy that, you know, you can really just slightly tweak and use if you're going to be relying on AI solely for the copywriting and you don't have a copywriter.
Love it. I found that after you then get the first result of that, typically, hey, ChatGPT, reduced by 40%. You know, reduce the number of words. Another thing that was interesting, I've been on the sales side, like I said. Josh Braun is someone I respect massively in that industry on the sales side. And you can now ask ChatGPT, hey, make it sound more like Josh Braun when you're writing the cold call script or the email. Or so as people's IP gets consumed by the machine, I think it's pretty interesting. Now, I wonder what legally is going to happen with some of that. And, you know, some of that should be maybe firewalled on the other side. But while it's there, I suggest to look into using that kind of IP. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. In fact, I've been seeing people doing that in the marketing world. So Frank Kern is a legend in the email marketing and just online marketing in general space. And he's put out a ton of he's really created a lot of the strategies that email marketers use to this day. And it's kind of funny because he'll even joke about how, like, you can just, you know, ask AI to use his frameworks, and he'll put out posts showing AI trying to replicate him and kind of, you know, making fun of, like, whenever it's actually accurate, and he's kind of making jokes about, I don't really sound like that, do I? And you know, he seems to be having a good attitude about it, but like you said, I don't know if everyone's going to have a good attitude about it.
Yeah, that's good. Frank Kern, I was curious of who they would be asking. There's got to be Instagram, you know, mega Logan Brothers or whatever those guys are. There's probably a lot of things you can ask that it knows. Talk to me about, you know, AI can solve a lot of problems based on your initial use of the technology over the last, you know, year or quarters. What big problems do you see in the marketing world or just in the world at large that AI might be able to solve for the world in the coming years?
So in the short term, for my world of email marketing, the problem that AI has not been able to solve yet that would be really useful for me is if it could create really good email designs, because you're seeing a lot of these AI design tools that they're good for more like artistic type of designs. You're seeing a lot of these kind of product mock-up things that they're okay. It's kind of like, me comparing, back whenever I was freelance copywriting and using some of the early version of the AI copywriting tools. And, from a designer standpoint, they would look at that and say, no, that's pretty amateur. So it's not, that would be a major time saver and money saver for email marketers. But what I would say is like the actual, long-term big picture problem for it to solve would be to be able to have email personalization down to an individual level, meaning that, we try to do things to personalize emails by just understanding different segments of our audience within the entire email list and trying to segment them out and craft the content for those groups. But these are groups of thousands of people within each group. I'm talking about having every email personalized specifically to each individual. So you would have an email that's considering, assuming again, a lot of these tools we use right now, like the big email service providers, they have access to our data as far as our shopping history from all the different online sites we've been shopping, our traffic history. They have a lot of data on us. It's not really that usable like that yet. But I could see it where we all are getting this email that's reading our mind, essentially, just crafting the message exactly in the way that would resonate with us and considering our questions and concerns and promoting only the things that we are absolutely interested in. And that would be extremely powerful.
I love it. Yeah. Audience of one, right? One-to-one, true one-to-one marketing versus groups. There was a product 7 years ago when I first went into business called Nova.ai. They have since gone out of business, but it was a plugin to Outlook. Right before you sent your email, it would take about 5 to 10 seconds and it would look at their LinkedIn profile and it would say, hey, the weather, it looks hot there in Okinawa, Japan, or wherever they resided. Or you and I went to the same university. There were about 12 to 18 different pre-canned personalization scripts. And at the time, 6, 7 years ago, when I said, hey, I've uncovered this product, a lot of the people in the world were like, oh, no, this is terrible. This takes the human out. You're going to need to tax that bot as if it's a person. And I was just scratching my head saying, just like when they said that the farm equipment, was going to displace people on the field don't want to be doing the work. They want rather have a, tractor to do it. And I believe that's where we're at in the history of the world, is that people don't want to go spend hours and hours to find one sentence to write. If the tool can serve that up to the rep at the time of need, and then you still need human in the loop because the AI can go wrong. One time we sent an email and it said, we saw your CEO in the news. Congrats. And the CEO had died.
Oh, man.
Human in the loop matters. And I think it's going to matter at least for the medium term. Long term, it's going to get interesting. But that's a whole nother conversation that we'll broach on next. So you're using ChatGPT and the like for content, copy. What else? Is there any, I know for marketers these days, Instagram, TikTok, all of the video posting, and I've seen companies take long form video, use a tool like Video.AI, and then say, generate based on the conversation the AI powered post. And there was even one, Opus Clips, that would tell you this is a 99 score, this is a 78 score, and it would tell you the likelihood of it going viral or not.
Oh, okay. Wow. That's interesting.
Yeah. Have you found any other kind of neat tools like outside of writing email copy? What else is out there that's amazing?
It's funny you mentioned that Video.AI is probably the main tool I'm using outside of things that I'm doing for my client work. That has been a huge time saver for video editing. So I'll record, YouTube videos that are, 5, 10, 15 minutes long, something like that. And then I can get a bunch of 1-minute clips with Video.AI, which is super convenient because it will it will just know what you're saying. It will detect what you're saying. And then it will pick out the most interesting segments that it thinks are, topic worthy for short form videos. And it will give you ideas, for a 10-minute video, it might give you 5, 7 short form videos, and you don't have to use them all. And you can edit the time frame in which it pulled the, the clip from, but it's super fast, super easy. And you can do all of the, the basic editing stuff as far as getting the transcriptions on the screen, having, if you want to have a title on the screen, all those kind of little things like that. It's super quick and easy. So that's actually been one of my favorite AI tools that I've used, beyond ChatGPT and those other similar tools like that.
So I think a lot of entrepreneurs might say, why is Kyle exposing his secrets? And to me, the answer is pretty simple, but I'd like you to expand on it. Yeah, you can use those tools, but look, I'm having a conversation right now. I don't have the time at night, unless I want to spend my weekends when I'm with my family, to go in and upload it, click a button to share it to all my social channels, make sure that all the copy is templated properly, right? When I first started doing it, it's all across the board. The brand promise, the brand story, none of it interacted well together. And then when I started working with marketing partner, Chad, you mind if I give you some feedback? So even with these kinds of tools, to me, there's still a requirement for sophisticated marketing strategy. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, I've always had the attitude when it comes to sharing the quote unquote secrets that it's like, I don't really think with a scarcity mindset. I think there's enough for all of us. And, I really think that a lot of what you put out comes back to you. So, a lot of people have shared a lot of their secrets with me over the years. I'm happy to pass things along. But like you said, if someone thinks that they can go in and use one of these AI tools and you've never really done any, like say you're just going to enter a new space. So you're entering a marketing space for the first time and you don't really know anything about the underlying marketing strategies. If you think that these AI tools are just going to hand you over everything you need to be successful, then it's going to be very painful, because one of the reasons why I can get such great results from the AI tools is because I know what to ask it. I know what to look for. I know whenever it gives me an output that's totally off the mark, I can spot the difference, right? And the other thing is I'm not using the copy verbatim. I still have copywriters that work for me, so it's not like we're relying on it. But what I have found is that, again, it comes back to the prompts. You have to be able to ask the right questions. You have to be able to feed it the right information. And that's where the strategy comes into play. So the more you understand the underlying strategies, and also the more you really understand what the outcome should actually look like and not just be happy with what it gives you the first time, you're going to be able to get way more out of these tools. So to me, it's not, I don't see it as a threat to replace me. Although if that vision I shared earlier about it, being able to have personalization down to the individual, and I could actually see that going further where it could do the copy, design, everything for you. I could see it, potentially being a replacement, but then again, who's going to create that company in the first place? Who's going to create that software? There's always going to be new opportunities. So right now in the time frame we're in right now, I see these as tools to make us way more efficient, way more effective, way more powerful at what we're doing. And I don't see them as a threat necessarily to taking our jobs or anything.
I had someone on the podcast earlier, and he said in the olden days, if you will, inventors were the people who created amazing things that changed the world forever. And he gave the Oppenheimer movie example, right? Not that that's the neatest invention of the world, but it was an important invention and it changed history. And he said, in the future, because of tools like ChatGPT, generative AI and other tools, the power now comes down to the individual because, right, you've got at your fingertips access to decades, millennia of information that's sitting there. You've got a lot of books behind you. Now we can go ask it to summarize any one of those books and write the email in the way that book was written. I mean, it's pretty neat. if you really can grasp the power of asking the questions, and it should crack open creativity to a level that's never been cracked open before.
That's another great example. So there are a bunch of different copywriting frameworks that are out there that are taught by the different legends in the copywriting space. And if you had never gone and read all those different books and studied those different strategies, you might not even know that these different frameworks exist. But you can just ask ChatGPT to tell you about the most effective copywriting frameworks, and then you can tell it to write content using those frameworks. So it saves you so much time. And now you don't have to take the time to do all this practicing and to master that framework yourself, but you can still get the use out of it.
Love it. While we're here, just because you do a lot of email marketing, one thing that I've found people don't understand is warming up an inbox. Could you talk just briefly at a high level? What does that even mean? And do you only need to care about that if you're doing mass emails, or should you care about it just for the regular day-to-day emails that you're sending to your customers?
Yeah, this is really more of an issue for doing outbound. So whenever people they've curated a list of people and they're going to be doing mass outreach to people, it's a really important step for that type of email marketing. And then for more of the inbound style of where you've got an opt-in on your website and people come in and opt in, it's not as much of a concern. But the point of it is that the inboxes, so Gmail and Yahoo, all the inboxes are very sensitive to anything that replicates spammy behavior. And it doesn't look like normal human interaction as far as how we would email each other personally, but also normal business emailing where, again, it's like if you create a list and people sign up, there's usually a slow trickle of people up front and you're emailing out at a slower cadence. And then that group starts to get bigger and bigger and bigger as you expand and do more email marketing. And it shows this natural growth. Whereas if you go create a new domain and you've never really sent any emails from it, and then all of a sudden you blast a list of 10,000 people, it's a pretty big signal to those inboxes that, hey, there's something going on here. And so they're a lot more strict about the outreach type of thing. So that is where you want to warm up a domain by just doing some normal emailing for a little bit before you do a big blast. There's also a bunch of tools that mimic this, although I'm seeing that it seems like those tools, it's one of those things where how you kind of like bend or break a rule of Google, and eventually they catch up to you and they stop that tool from working, and then someone finds another workaround. So that's kind of the game that's going on right now. There's a lot of these email inbox tools. I don't want to recommend any because I'd hate for someone to do this and they get shut down. But
and then the rules change. Yeah.
Yeah. But there are these tools that exist that will kind of replicate this sending behavior back and forth at a normal cadence that allows you to have your domain kind of warmed up to where it looks like this is an active campaign that does send and receive a lot of emails. And then if you go do those big blasts, you are less receptive to getting the negative feedback from those inboxes. However, I will say one concern or one thing that's really important to know, if you're going to have a dedicated email outreach strategy, you don't want to ever be doing this from your main domain. You want to set up other domains that you do the outreach from, because eventually, no matter how much you do the warm up and you try to be strategic and all that, if you are doing big outreach of tens of thousands of contacts, you are eventually going to burn out that domain and you're going to have to replace it with a new one. So that's part of the strategy that people are using these days. And again, this isn't really my space. I'm just sharing what I see working. So
out of 100 people, one rep did 1,000 emails a day for 8 days in a row. And then Outlook actually stopped sending, and we were using one of the main emailing tools, but this was early in the day when they didn't really have a throttle on the upper limit, or maybe they just didn't show us where it was. And this rep got out of control, and the CEO of this publicly traded company stopped getting his emails, and his emails stopped going out. And all of a sudden it was like, wait a second, Chad, you're the leader of the department. That's on you. And I was like, wow, hold on a second. It's important to understand these kinds of things. Well, one more question, and we've kind of touched on it already, and it's kind of the elephant in the room question about replace or augment marketing and salespeople. I did some research on this, and the math that some of the big agencies are saying is in 5 years, 90 million people will lose their job from AI around the world out of 3.2 billion. So 90 million, but there'll be 80 million new jobs created. So the net differential, 10 million, I would expect they may be underestimating it one way or the other, but it's not as big of a, just like the internet when it came out, or farming equipment, or the next thing. It didn't cause as many job losses. I believe that's going to be the case here. People are going to have to up-level their skill sets, but it will be more of an augmentation play than a replacement. And it sounds like you're on that same page.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's going to be a level of both. So I think there are going to be, lower level or low hanging fruit types of jobs where the jobs that don't require as much skill will be the ones that will be easier to be replaced by AI. And that will end up providing better value for the end customer who's receiving that kind of sales or customer service or whatever. And then, because there's always going to be a market for, it's kind of like in customer service, for example, a lot of companies, they will outsource it to other countries, and their customers will complain because the people don't speak English very well, and maybe they don't fully understand the circumstances of the situation the customer's in or whatever. But the company who's doing that is saving money, and they can pass that savings on to have a lower price point for their customers. Versus higher end products and services, these types of customers are always expect more personalized, human interaction with sales and customer service. And that's where I think on the high end, you're going to have way more enhancement. On the lower end, you're going to have more replacement.
Yeah, I totally agree with that assessment. Well, it's been amazing talking with you today, Kyle. We've been talking with Kyle Stout, who is the founder of Elevate and Scale. They've been around since 2019. Sounds like they've tried a lot of things and are very cutting edge when it comes to tools like ChatGPT, email, making sure that they don't, they get into the inbox and those kinds of things. And the best part, they take on a lot of the risk by charging you $0 increase in ad spend. So that's pretty cool. Kyle, it's been great talking with you. Thanks for sharing so many insights. And if people want to get a hold of you, what would be the best way to find you?
Best place is at elevateandscale.com, or you can just follow my YouTube channel, which is the same handle, Elevate and Scale.
Love it. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining another AI for Sales podcast. We'll catch you next time.
Hey, you made it this far in your AI for Sales journey. Want to augment your sales growth? First, leave us a review and then visit www.scalex.ai to claim your free strategy session today.